This is the Between Night Visitors. I don't, what part are we on? Does anyone remember? Let's look. We are on part 13, is that right? Maybe it is, yeah, might be. Fantastic. Let's do a bit of recap. We have a lot of things changing right now. I just realized I never moved over the mastermind thread either to the brand new sheet, so that's complicated. Let's find that real quick. We'll deal with that in a moment. Yeah. Let's recap. So right now we have 2 active threats and a side threat. I am Figs Pigs is no longer an active threat. You've taken too long. Patrick Fig is out in the wind, and Scotland Yard no longer cares about the Fig family because of the sculptor. So that is Dunzor. We are not worried about that anymore. It says neutralized threat on the sheet, but that's basically true, but you don't get credit for it. As far as the other threat goes, it's the Nutcracker. Now, this is the one with the rather terrifying villainous individual calling himself the Sculptor, who is brutally murdering and posing across the city dancers from the Royal Ballet. Now, we have 3 questions available to be answered there, and all of them are different ways of resolving the threat. And you have 1 clue so far towards the effort of stopping the Sculptor. We have the side threat, which is the Reaver's last victim. This is very simply just to figure out where are the remains of Anton Farrow, the last victim of Roger the Reaver, a former member of Hargrave House. Where are they at? And you want to get a hold of those remains so that you can allow his mother to have some peace, basically, before she dies. We are pretty deep into that one. You've got 1 more night phase. Basically, if you don't get this solved by the end of this present night phase coming up, Anton Farrow's mother dies, Mrs. Farrow's mother dies with no peace. So that is that, and it will be done. We currently have 12 mastermind clues because I am including our mother's efforts to help Theodora last time with the blood transfusion. I'm counting that as a mastermind clue. So Dr. Safby. So 12 mastermind clues, getting closer and closer to that. And taking a look at our 2 returning hunters, Mr. Silvestris and Dr. Safby. Dr. Safby has 2 conditions, Curious and Servant of Theodora Brathwaite, both of which were very prominent last time. And Mr. Silvestris has Drained and Regret. We are going to be meeting 2 brand new characters shortly. I have a plan for how I'm going to get all these characters sort of together and introduced. And we'll talk about that when we start the day phase. But for now, let's just do some basic character creation wrap up here. We have 2 characters that are being introduced, the Explorer and the Legacy. And I'm going to ask Adrian to just give us the basics of your Explorer, name, look, vice, and that's it. And then we'll come back and do personal quarters. But give us the basics of Lady Florence Wilton Evans.
Yes, so I'm playing Lady Florence Wilton Evans, she, her. She is wearing Hessian boots, has steely eyes, and a noticeable signet ring that she's wearing. Her vice is boxing, and she, yeah, that's her so far.
Very good, thank you. And let's go over to our legacy, Yulia Burov. please, Alicia, tell us the basics of Yulia.
Right, so I'm playing Yulia Burov. Her, and I have extravagantly braided hair, fingerless gloves, and a maroon stained leather coat.
And your vice is?
Oh, and my vice, right. What is my vice? Reading old tomes.
Good. That feels like a pretty straightforward activity. Good. Fabulous. Let's go back. At this point, I'm going to read the descriptive text for Lady Florence Wilton Evans. Everyone else, please pay attention. And based off what we think we know about Lady Evans, or Lady Wilton Evans at this point, think about something that might be in her personal quarters, and we'll add that to the personal quarters. So, Lady Florence Wilton Evans, you were born into a world of fantastic wealth and privilege. You could have spent your days cosseted by luxury, with nothing more pressing than deciding what to wear to that evening's dinner party. But you chose a different life. You chose to serve your queen. You leveraged your wealth and connections to explore the world, to chart unknown territory. And now you have a mountain range named after you, a fitting honor considering you tower over other Britons. Your strength, your intellect, your cunning, none can match it. None except the mastermind. The mastermind who plots ceaselessly against Her Majesty, whose mind and resources dwarf your own. You have conquered every trial the gods have placed before you, but the mastermind is something altogether different. And your new work, your work with Hargrave House, is connected to them in some way. You spend your days and nights exploring the true heart of darkness, the monsters that stalk the streets of London. But none are so monstrous as your opponent, the one who sits on the other side of the chessboard. Will Great Britain still be standing when the grand game is over? And so, what do we suppose is in Lady Florence Wilton Evans's personal quarters at Hargrave House?
I think that you have an artifact that you took on your very colonial adventures, and it is haunted.
Haunted artifact. Very good.
That I brought back. Yes. Okay.
I think you have a like almost cartoonishly large like elephant gun with like the big flared end, and it's a single shot, single use sort of situation, but dang if it doesn't pack a punch.
Put a big old hole in you. That's good. I'm going to say that you have a standing dinner invitation at Buckingham Palace.
I was actually going to say something along that line. Funny.
Billy, you're very, very quiet. I don't know if you need to like move your mic closer. Or...
Sorry. Is that any better?
That is better. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say something very similar to what you just said, which is funny. How about like letters, official letters and stuff from all kinds of very prominent people. So kind of a way to get in and out of wherever you need to go with no issue. You got connections.
Documents and papers. Very good. Okay. Ms. Burov, our legacy. Hargrave House is filled with monster hunters, but you're the only one who was born to do it. Your parents, their parents, and their parents before them have known one thing: reveling in the destruction of ungodly beasts and carnivorous terrors. Your family name has been whispered in secret meetings for generations, passed along to those in need of your hereditary talents. You were taught how to hold a blade when you were a child and completed your first hunt not many years thereafter. Your knowledge of combat and trapping is unparalleled, but you've grown disillusioned with your heritage. You want to be more than just another entry in a long ledger of death. You want out. But you have one last score to settle first, a curse of sorts, a beast that's haunted you and your family for as long as anyone can remember. Prepare to say your family's vow. And indeed, all the moves, if read, from top to bottom are the vow of the family. So what do we suppose is in Ms. Yurov's? Also, at this point, you should probably tell us what your hereditary weapon is so that we don't duplicate too much there, Alicia.
It is a hand crossbow named Seamstress.
Okay, very good. Awesome.
How about like almost a bestiary, like a book with a bunch of notes on different weird supernatural things, some not supernatural, I guess.
It's a monster manual.
A monster manual. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
I think maybe some deadly poison, either to get out of an impossible situation, because that getting caught by the monsters might be worse, or or for other uses.
I'm going to say you have a book a little bit like that book that the Kingsguard in Game of Thrones keeps, where they like every page is like a member of your family talking about their exploits.
I think you have as a trophy from some monster you slayed, like the severed hand of some beast that's been preserved. It has like only 3 claws. And I think you always put it like in a place of display somewhere in like your room. And every time you like leave and come back, it's in a different place.
Fabulous. I love it. One note for you, Adrian. So, Adrian, we're very close to facing off against Theodora. And because Mr. Sylvestris is aimed at Theodora like an arrow right now, I wonder if you would be interested in the mastermind that is Lady Wilton's opponent being the next one, whoever that happens to be. Would that be good?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, because I just think it's like we're not going to get a chance to really explore that story with Theodora. So I think the next mastermind being the big bad for you is probably the best move. So I don't know how that affects mechanically the character, but I don't think it should be too bad. So, and with all that said, I think you can probably still do the moves that like bring the mastermind in, like the sort of intimacy moves with Theodora. You could probably have those, but I don't think Theodora is the one, right? So okay. Fabulous. Any other questions about these new characters before we continue? Okay. Let's go ahead and go to the day phase. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the brand new threat because that's what we do. But then after that, we're going to have a special kind of like introductory scene for the day phase that kind of gets you all together. So the brand new threat is called the Spider Silk Seamstress. And this one's pretty fun. Among academics, Sir Richard Harlow was a well-regarded, if eccentric, scholar of folklore, known for his vivid storytelling and far-fetched theories. To Hargrave House, he was a trusted friend whose expertise in fey lore and magic proved invaluable on numerous occasions. The news of his sudden death comes as a shock, even more the manner of his passing. Sir Richard's body was found at his desk, strangely hollowed and preserved, wrapped head to toe in delicate silver thread. What's more, he was set to present a summary of his life's work at the Blue Feather Society, a private salon where curious minds explore the more esoteric subjects not discussed in formal institutions. Sir Richard was convinced that creatures of the Fey realm, or the other crowd, had infiltrated London, and he supposedly had new evidence to support his theory. Ms. Abigail Walker, chair of the Blue Feather Society, reveals that Sir Richard had been courting Hazel Beaumont, a mysterious seamstress whose magnificent fashion designs and apparently her company have proved irresistible to a number of London's artistic and academic elite. Each of her other suitors have also vanished, though no bodies have turned up. Who has the highest sensitivity here? Looks like it might be Mr. Silver. Oh, it's the tie between Yulia and Ambrose. Let's go with Yulia. Ms. Burov, Hargrave House is familiar enough with Fey magic to recognize its manifestations in the manner of Sir Richard's death. How do you know that Ms. Beaumont is no human, but a dangerous Fey creature in disguise?
I think that her true form is seen in reflections, so mirrors and glass and things like that.
So there have been rumors that she appears differently in mirrors. Got it. Okay, cool. I love it. We have 3 questions here. I'll update the questions on the break. They're not in the sheet yet, but the questions are, how is the creature ensnaring her victims? This is complexity 4. It allows you to resolve the threat by allowing a hunter to be lured by the seamstress as bait. That doesn't make any sense. Lured to the seamstress as bait, then capturing or destroying her. The next question is, what is the creature's true name? That's complexity 6. Resolve the threat by learning the creature's true name, gaining power over her, and dismantling the binding rituals which sustain her in the human realm. Fey names can take many forms. It could be a fleeting series of images, a song or poem, a word unknown to human tongues, or something else. That's complexity 6. The final question is, what does the creature truly want? That's complexity 8. This allows you to resolve the threat by striking a bargain with the creature in accordance with ancient Fey customs. And so those are 3 different ways of resolving this issue. We also have a mask available called the Mask of Glamour. The Mask of Glamour, when it's chosen, each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one. So that is our current brand new threat, in addition to the Nutcracker. So I want to pick up with a particular scene. You recall that there is a former hunter, a Rabbi Rebecca Solomon, who has pressed Hargrave House into investigating the sculptor. You are all known to her. I think that Lady Florence Wilton Evans is probably a former resident who's just returned. Perhaps it's Sir Richard's death that brought Lady Florence back to Hargrave House, given that they're both sort of aristocrats. And Ms. Burov, I don't think you're a former resident of Hargrave House, but I think a member of your family might have been, which is why you are here. And in this scene, I would like for Ambrose to be manifested. I don't need you to mark anything. And of course, we have Dr. Safby as well. And Rabbi Solomon is at Hargrave House, and the 6 of you are having a meeting. And she's sort of leading it. Even though she is not an official member of Hargrave House anymore, she's still very much clued into the work you do. And I think the thing you'll notice about her, we should talk about her a little bit, is her sort of, she sort of wears like rabbinical garb, right? But the thing that you will all notice, because she's famous in Hargrave House circles for it, is the way she hunts monsters, the way she sort of like did her work with Hargrave House, is she has a ring of power. It is a ring of power that is very, very old and absolutely suffuse with sort of powerful, ancient, from biblical times, magic, right? And she uses it to ensnare and seal away malevolent spirits. When she was in Hargrave House, that was kind of her thing. was exorcisms and grabbing ghosts, right? You might even, Mr. Sylvestris, you might even have some thoughts about that. I don't know. But in any case, she says, the former residents of Hargrave House could not have left their posts at a more inopportune time. In fact, they left it at the worst possible time. It is tragic what happened to Mr. Nelson, Mr. Taliford, Mr. Quinn. Also, is Green at Hargrave House right now, out of character, or is Green gone as well?
I think they are, and that was one of the questions that they might still be taking care of the lurker in the basement.
Okay, good. All right, well, we'll keep it there then. So she says, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Taliford, Mr. Quinn, they are all gone, right when the city is practically teetering on the edge. The sculptor is a terror. The city is practically, there's a hysteria, a great fear spreading throughout because of this monstrosity. And now we have Sir Richard, another ally of Hargrave House, murdered by some strange fey creature. And so, of course, we're very happy then to have Lady Wilton Evans returned to her post, and a representative from the Burov family returned to Hargrave House. And Mr. Sylvestris returned to Hargrave House from a very, very long time ago. She plays with her ring a little bit when she talks about you, Mr. Sylvestris. And Dr. Safby, how have you been enjoying your short time here?
I think he like leans, or he sits straight up, and he says that I've learned many things already that I didn't know that I was going to learn.
Indeed. I'm also told that Ms. Brathwaite is always there, ever scheming, and that she has big, big plans for Queen and country. I have no doubt that because of your interactions with her, that you will also be called upon to address those matters. I will be what help I can be, particularly as it relates to the monster called the Sculptor. But I think it is going to be on you, all new residents of Hargrave House, to set things right, to finish the work that the others could not finish. And after some small talk and some drinks, she excuses herself and leaves you all there in the salon of Hargrave House. We can have that scene if you wish, or we could just press forward with the day phase.
I think as she leaves, Ambrose breathes a sigh of relief. And I think mustering up his physical form during the day is a lot harder. And so he immediately apparates and returns to his bust there on a shelf and sort of oh, thank goodness. Oh, she's terrifying. Well, delighted to finally meet you in person. I've read over some of the documents that you left behind before your absence, Lady Florence. And of course, charmed as well to meet you, Ms. Burov. What was it?
Burov. And I'm just throwing knives at a wall, I feel like.
Yeah, when Sylvestris introduces himself, I will get up to kind of shake their hand as well. But I probably won't say much. Just kind of follow his lead almost, like he's introducing me in a way.
I'm curious how you feel about the sort of disapparating Mr. Sylvestris. How is that going? I know you were.
Oh, that's clearly some kind of mirror or
Yeah.
something like that.
Indeed. Lady Florence Wilton, what are you doing? Or Lady Wilton Nevins, sorry, I'll get it eventually.
That's good. She's sitting in a chair, and I think she gets up, says like, "I'm happy to be back working with all of you. Some mostly new faces. I think I've seen your face before, even not in the same way, Mr. Sylvestris.
Well, my bust has been here for a very long time, so I'm sure we've seen each other before, perhaps.
I think so, and I mean, I'm sure good work was done here over the last months and years, but it seems that Hargrave House has kind of lost its focus. I think now that we are back in business, we have a member of the Burov family back with us, and I think I'm alarmed by what we have heard, and this death. Mr. Richard, was it Richard Harlow? It has brought me back here, and in my travels, I've seen things I can't start to relate to you, but the last time I've seen something like this, we arrived after a month, and what we could read in the notes that were in that place was that after a few days, screams could be heard in the night, every night. And after a week, nobody was out in the dark anymore. And after 2 weeks, there was no one left to scream. And when we arrived after a month, that was what we found. Things are out there, and I think they are more dangerous than what Hargrave House has been dealing with for the last weeks and months, even some scheming small things here just in the city. I think we have to concentrate on new things, and it's good that there seems to be new people here to deal with this. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
I'm gonna wrench one of my knives out of the wall and turn around and speak with a very heavy Russian accent, which I cannot do and will not attempt because it will just be offensive. And say, I'm gonna turn around and be like, you think this is scary? You don't know scary. You are weak. All you English so weak. I don't know why I've been sent here.
Well, perhaps we are in need of your strength, as the dear Lady Wilton Evans has alluded. There are powers here at play that pose a grave danger to life and well-being, and I'm sure that such a studious member of your family would be very helpful in these trying times.
Yes, we will need your help wherever we can get it. I'm sure that you have a lot of experience, and we will need it. But let's review what problems, smaller problems, are we dealing with right now? I think let's have another look at them. Maybe with some fresh eyes, we might be able to figure some things out and get rid of these small and insignificant things before and then we are able to focus on the real issues. Don't you think?
Dr. Safby, there has been a great commotion out on the square all morning. At one point, Rabbi Solomon had to stop because of some workers next door carrying on quite loudly. Hargrave House, of course, sits on a square, and there are essentially two other mansions perpendicular to Hargrave House. And one of those mansions has sat empty for a long time. But there is someone moving in. And Dr. Sappy, I think that you are aware of someone looking through one of the cloudy, sort of frosted windows by the front door of the entryway. I think you see this person trying to like look in. What do you do?
While everybody's talking, he stands up and he kind of like brushes himself, and I think he'll walk over there and he'll just kind of like look back at them through the glass. Like if they're peering in, he just kind of like stands up and peers back.
He says, "Oh, hello. I was we're moving some things in next door, and I was wondering if someone here might be able to lend us a hand."
He turns around and kind of looks at everybody else, and then I don't think he would definitely not want to help.
So what do you do?
I just asked if would anybody like to help our new neighbor move some items? I know we have pressing matters, as Lady Florence was speaking about, but I mean, maybe a little bit of regular labor will do us some good. Get the juices flowing.
It's just one particularly big piece. It'll only take a few minutes.
I don't have any arms right now.
Okay, that's a good excuse.
I think Lady Florence will walk out there and say, "Where is it that our neighbors need our help?
And
Let's get it done."
So this man, you can see he's just like a laborer, and they have a big cart parked in front of the mansion next to Hargrave House on the square, and he says, "Oh, well, we just need to just a little bit of extra help. We've got this one of those big figureheads on the end of a ship. We're bringing that in. It's very, very heavy. I certainly don't want to trouble you, though, my lady."
So I think Lady Florence, she looks somewhere in between, like a rugged kind of archaeologist and a lady in a gown. So it's kind of unclear for someone like this worker whether this is something completely out of what she would be doing or whether it is not. So it leaves this kind of ambiguous. And I think she will go and help, and it will quickly turn out that she's actually much stronger than it seems at first, and she just is very used to kind of doing this kind of thing and just picking something up, carrying it, and so on.
This figurehead is a massive. It's a large chimera that would go on the end of a ship. It's beautifully carved and freshly lacquered, it seems, but it's like a sort of lion twisted up with a goat, twisted up with a serpent, right? What would normally be a sort of mermaid type figure, it is this chimera-like creature. It's very heavy, and everyone is, it takes, you kind of get in there and you're bringing it in, and you can see that there's lots of furniture that's been moved in. There are drop cloths everywhere, and you hear downstairs in the basement cheering and commotion, Lady Wilton, it's just sort of like some sort of raucous laughter and cheering. We'll come back to that, though. What's everybody else doing? Ms. Burov?
I think that when the Lady Florence, sorry to interrupt, when the Lady Florence walks out, he kind of like he exhales and then he goes and sits back down. He's very relieved that he didn't have to interact with new people.
Very nice. Ms. Burov, what are you doing?
I think I will take a seat directly across from Victor, and I'll be like flipping a coin between my fingers, and I'm gonna look in the eye and be like, I too do not like people.
They cause so many issues.
You're bonding already.
He definitely, I don't know if he likes to make eye contact, but so when you like start speaking to him, he's kind of like looking down. I don't know what he's looking down at, but
That's funny because I feel like I will look at you
Yeah.
very intently, like
Yeah.
uncomfortably so.
I think that he knows that. So like right when he sits down and you sit down, he's kind of like looking down already.
I love it. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and we'll have just one more scene each for the day phase if you want to do some investigation or whatever, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to have a scene, one more scene for the day phase. So just say what you'd like to do, except for Lady Florence, who I have plans for, but everyone else. Ms. Burov, what would you like to do for the rest of the day?
I would like to go and familiarize myself with Hargrave House, particularly the books. I want to go look in the books, kind of books they have, what I might
Very
find.
good. Very good, very good. You can do that for sure. Ambrose?
My vice is eavesdropping. I want to eavesdrop on Yulia as she goes around the library, which I think in many ways Ambrose views as his library.
Very good. And Dr. Sappy?
Interestingly enough, I think that he would like to go to the library as well and kind of poke around any kind of medical stuff that Hargrave House maybe has.
I think that probably would be, yeah, that's fine. I think just for purposes of getting the vulnerable move triggered, which it sounds like Ambrose is trying to do, you probably need to take your medical books and go somewhere else.
I think, you know what,
Yeah.
now that I think about it, I think that he would probably take him back to his kind of his area.
Indeed. That sounds great. And let's pick up with Lady Florence, though. Lady Florence, you hear this commotion downstairs in like the sort of sub-level of the house, and it is the distinct sound of men beating the shit out of each other while other men cheer them on. What do you do?
Well, I think she definitely recognizes this in an instant. And the person this worker that she helped move in stuff, are they still around, or?
Yeah, it was they're easily distracted because there's like so much stuff to do. Yeah. So
okay. Yeah, so I think she will slip like kind of out of this person's view and kind of follow this sound.
As you go downstairs to this basement area, it's quite large, and you're immediately hit by the smell of fresh paint. And when you get down there to the basement area, you see that the walls of the basement have been painted to look like a blue sky and an ocean. And there is an old ship's wheel, like to steer it, set up down in the basement. And there is a boxing ring. And you see a bunch of men. They're all older, they're all gray-haired, but they are sweaty and shirtless and standing around this boxing ring while two other men are duking it out, bare-fisted. And then you see across the way your nemesis, Admiral Thaddeus Flagg, is there. He is also shirtless and just wearing some simple cotton pants. He's an older man, very like jowly, and has a very vacant, distant stare that makes him the hit of all the parties he goes to in society. He's considered a creepy, undesirable party guest. And while his things are being moved into the house, he and his friends are down in the basement boxing. What do you do?
I think she tries to like. How many people are there roughly?
About a dozen.
Okay, so I think she will try to slip into like a dark corner and observe.
Yeah, that's good.
Without being seen by the Admiral, if that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We'll come back to that. So, Dr. Sappy, if you are actually trying to research something related to the deaths of either Sir Richard, who was found wrapped in silk threads and hollowed out, or any of the unfortunate young dancers who the sculptor has murdered, you can definitely do that with the information move right now.
Yeah, I think that probably the dancers, because I actually saw one of the bodies itself, and
Indeed, you
I
did. Yeah.
saw some specifics. So I think that kind of he'll probably just pour through to see if he can find anything about body manipulation. I know you mentioned something about the calves being.
That's one of your
changed in a
clues.
way.
Yeah, the calves had been like altered, like
Yeah.
they've been surgically altered. Yeah.
So I just anything I can glean about something like that, like why, how, what would they use, that kind of thing, and then the specifics about, I guess, the procedures. I guess he'd want to know exactly how to do that to somebody.
Intriguing. Roll the information move with reason. I think your curiosity is going to get the better of you, potentially making you overlook something important. Therefore, roll a disadvantage. So roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest.
Yeah, 4, 1, so 5, so 7.
7. We'll come back to that. Ms. Burov, we assume you've been given the details on the 2 active mysteries, and you can begin researching things, especially maybe related to the Fae, especially if you wish. But what are you doing?
Yeah, I guess I am. I think I was planning originally to invest, like do some research on what kind of things Hargrave House has been up to recently, so past investigations and things like that, and I'm hoping along the way I might stumble across something with my information move. But
I think that sounds great. Yeah, roll with reason.
I think I'm not very good at that. Sure, I'm not.
It's a flat roll, something to the world.
That's 5.
Very good. Ambrose, what are you doing in the meantime?
I think as Yulia is collecting books and journals off of shelves and going through recent history of the house, I think he is present in his bust on the shelf in the library, just observing her, and I think he's just sort of watching in almost like a weirdly voyeuristic way. He's not manifest right now, and he can certainly manipulate books and move them around, open pages and things, and even read, but I think as she grabs a particular leather bound volume that he knows he's held before, he knows how the leather feels in your hands and the weight of it and the way it smells, and he just sort of sighs sadly as he watches her grab these books.
Can I hear you? Am I aware of your presence?
I think you would be. I think I think at first he's just quiet watching, but I think with that, I imagine you have fairly astute ears with your training.
Or really, truly, what might be more interesting is to say how you feel like you are being haunted right now. How can you feel the ghost in the room?
Mm.
You feel a ghostly presence.
I feel like I smell you specifically. I feel like you have a ghostly smell. But I feel like as I'm reading, when I hear you sigh, without looking up, I'm just going to say, you are ghost?
Well, I tend to think of myself more as a poltergeist, really.
I dated Ghost once. Did not end well.
Well, I dated a person once while I was alive, and that also did not end well.
You are very old.
Yes, you seem the opposite.
I think at that, I look offended, like a look crosses my face that I do not appreciate being referred to as young, despite the fact that I am in fact quite young.
But by comparison only, I assure you.
I don't want to date you.
Good, I suppose. I had not even considered the option. And now, upon consideration, I share your sentiments.
We'll come back to the missed roll and things in a moment, and the vulnerable move, and check in with Lady Florence. Lady Florence, I think this is probably the day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve?
I think the Admiral will see me.
Very good. Roll with composure.
Ten.
Oh, very good. You are watching the boxing match for a time, and
I think what we can see is that Lady Florence, like when people are watching the fighters, and when someone gets hit in the face, most people they turn away in kind of this imaginary pain, like and I think we can see that Lady Florence always just keeps like a little bit longer her eyes on the scene than most of the others that kind of always have this visceral reaction. And sometimes she does turn her eyes away, but it always takes longer than most of the others watching.
yeah, that's good. I mean, the match goes on, and there's some like small betting going on, and it does get pretty brutal and bloody. And the air is just like perfumed with like sweat, right? The smell of sweat. And at a certain point, Vice Admiral Flagg, kind of like claps his hands a bit and says, "All right, I think that is enough recreational activity for the day. We have quite a lot of work to do upstairs, and I can't afford to keep paying the ruinous prices these movers are charging. So, men, form up." And all these older men all line up like they are taking command from their captain, right? And it says, and he starts giving them all like directions, like, you're responsible for making sure such and such pieces move to this room, and you're responsible for making sure this is done, and you two get back to painting and all that stuff, right? And they all say, "Aye, aye, Admiral, aye, aye, Captain," that kind of thing, right? And they're dispersing, and they all eventually kind of like leave the basement, leaving you down there with Admiral Flagg. What do you do?
I think Lady Florence steps out of the shadow. So the men all left, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
So I think she steps. Yeah, she steps out of the shadow, and she looks at him and she says, "It seems we are neighbors now. Welcome to the neighborhood." And she turns around, goes up the stairs.
Indeed. Good. Dr. Safby, you get a clue. Let's talk about that clue. This is for a Nutcracker. Your medical books don't have much to say about body modifications, but something does stick out in your research that feels connected, if not, maybe not in terms of time period, but connected to the ballet, which is there are some notes about a string of I better check safety tools real quick. There's a note about a string of suicides at the ballet 15 years ago. A number of the young dancers, one after the other, committed suicide. And there are notes about the sort of like the abuses their bodies had suffered as a part of their rigorous training. And so that's just the article you're reading is about that, essentially. But those string of suicides from 15 years ago is your clue. And as a complication, I want to just ask you, how do you feel about that?
I mean, he is still curious, obviously, but I don't know. I think that upsets him. I don't know to what extent, but I'm sure that he has a touchy history with stuff like that. So maybe sad, upset.
Just take a simple condition of, would you say anger?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Angry sounds like a good straightforward condition there. Let's go back to this other scene. Let's get the vulnerable move part of it out of the way. Ms. Burov, obviously you don't have any conditions to clear, but Ambrose, you might. What do you think?
I do have a couple. I was looking to probably just have this be a little peaceful moment, maybe going to clear drained.
Sounds good. But now let's get to the unpeaceful part. You are not alone, as it turns out. Your instincts, Ms. Burov, your legendary instincts passed down from your family have failed you. Perhaps distracted by your spectral colleague. Because you see a man standing in the shadows, his large clenched white teeth. And he says, "I am also quite fond of this room."
I think that relatively unfazed, or at least appearing to be so, I'm going to say to Ambrose, "This man, you know him?"
I think as his presence is now appeared and made aware of in the room, I think Ambrose, on seeing him, especially given the fact that he has a lot of regrets from a recent evening after encountering this man before, I think he just sort of like freezes. The bus doesn't move. There's no sign of Ambrose here in the room right now.
We're all alone at this moment, Ms. Burov.
Ghost is not helpful. I guess I will throw one of those knives that I have on my person. Violence would be my first instinct, I guess.
Very good. Let's do the day phase. You obviously can't kill him or stop him because of the rules of the game, but you can have control of the situation, right? So what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid he's going to charge me, like he's going to close the gap between us.
Very good. Roll with vitality and let's see how it goes.
That's 11.
Very nice. You can get a bonus if you want to bump it. It's up to you. The bonus will be a clue if you care.
Yeah, I'll bump it.
You have full control of the situation, though. You're going to chase him off, essentially. Go ahead and narrate that. What does it look like?
So I think that no response from Ambrose. I'm just going to be like, I hate this place. And like with uncanny inhuman speed, I will have like pulled one of those small knives I keep on my person and like thrown it right at them. And I imagine, I mean, you can change this if you want, that it like actually hits them and sticks in them, but it's also like like nothing, like it doesn't faze them at all. Something about it doesn't feel right. And I'm just gonna be like, no.
He says, "Fear not, I have no quarrel with you, miss, though I am very interested by your choice of tool." And he removes the knife from his hand and he says, "I will go now, but I bring a warning. Do not interfere with my work."
Does he take my knife with him?
Yes. And he just walks past you. He wears a long, like kind of dark black duster and a sort of wide-brimmed black hat. He looks like an undertaker kind of, but it just helps to sort of shadow his face. You see these large clenched teeth. He has very easy access to Hargrave House. This might be something that Lady Florence might be able to help with her vast resources. We shall see. But he leaves, and you're going to get a clue because I promised you that. And Mr. Sylvestris, because of you get the bonus on the vault move as well if you wish.
Yeah, I think as soon as he like leaves, the bust like reanimates, and Sylvestris is like, "Oh, great work, Ms. Burov. Yeah, he's not a good person. The killings that were mentioned earlier, the plaguing the city, I believe he's the one responsible."
Why you go away?
We had last time we met, it was not good. He took something very precious to me and then killed someone right in front of me. He seems to have left something behind though, and he like gestures with his head towards the spot where he stood, and I think that there's a sprig of juniper and some campfire ash there on the ground where he was.
Very nice. And so let's just get these clues on here. So the clue that Dr. Safby found was a string of suicides. Ballet 15 years ago. Sprig of juniper. And then I owe you a clue as well, putting you all up to a very impressive 4 in short order. He actually came to deliver an invitation, which he left on the little table in the library. The invitation is to the quote, final performance of the Nutcracker on Christmas Eve, which is sometime in the future. And that's your clue. If there's nothing else, everyone, I think that will wrap up the day phase. Let's go to the dawn, or the dusk rather. Dusk. Okay.
Lady Florence does want to bring the others to try to answer at least one question, if not more. So,
Oh, we can do
but
that now.
apart from that,
absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. What do we? I mean, let's just do that now. I mean, the Reaver's last victim. You gotta. This is it. Like this night phase is when you have to get it done. 2 clues. It's only 2 complexity. So, what do we think the? Where do we think these bodies are? Is it just that house in the country? It might be.
I was kind of thinking something along those lines, like maybe I don't know if it was years ago, so I don't think it'd be preserved, but maybe he had the man's bones somewhere, like they were special to him in some way, so he kept that particular person's remains in that house.
Yeah, I like the idea that, because kind of the whole thing with this one is like we always could have resolved this and we just sort of let it.
You just let it go. Yeah,
let it go.
Yeah, because it wasn't interesting to Hargrave House. Like,
So I love the idea that like, yeah, there's just like, it's not even like buried or in the walls or anything. The bones are just like in a trunk in that house. We just got to go and pick them up.
I mean, the mask of apathy, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what this is, right? It's apathy. I don't even know if we use the mask of apathy yet. Or no, that becomes available later. It becomes available after this. That's right. It's like a phone. That's the reward at the end. This is truly just plain old disregard from Hargrave House from whoever came before you.
Is it possible?
Definitely.
Yeah. Is it possible that? So, if I understand this correctly, then I think Lady Florence would there might be some discussion going on, right? And then she might interject and say something like, because it says the bodies each were shipped somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and she will say something like, "Is it possible that you have just not noticed that these bodies were actually shipped in sapphire blue boxes?"
Oh, very good. Very good.
And I would try to use this a wax doll delivered in a sapphire blue box to kind of
I love
add this to the mix here.
Yeah, let's cross that off. But it is done. If you want to strike that through, that'd be great. But that gives you another clue. So that puts it up at a +1.
And apparently there's some connection between the Reaver and
Theodora. Yeah.
Well, but
yeah. Well, so if everyone agrees that they're just hanging out in a country house with the little added wrinkle that Theodora knew what the Reaver was up to and was even involved. Roll +1, take it away. Whoever wants to do so Ambrose, that was kind of this mystery was kind of your bailiwick, so why don't you do it?
Sure. Yeah, that's 5 on the dice +1, so that is 6.
That is the wrong answer. And the reaction here is really simple. Just you're going to fail at this. So if everyone wants to mark Janus Mask, it'll be the right answer, but it's up to you. So
I kind of love that we don't mark it and it's the wrong answer and we just continue to not care about it. Like, I mean, it's really cold, but that's how we got to this point in the first place. So
yeah.
A little bit of effort and we don't get there. We're like, oh, well.
Yeah, that's one approach. What would Rabbi Solomon think?
I think maybe Lady Wilton Evans will in this context might say something like, the Reaver, it all doesn't really matter. In the end, it's all connected to this woman Hargrave House has been chasing, Theodora. If she pays, this will also be done. The rest doesn't really matter.
I think if what we want, I'm totally fine with leaving it here if that's what we want to do. I think regardless, then Sylvestris will manifest and pay a visit to her in the night phase.
Very good.
To the family member.
Yeah, Mrs. Farrow. Very good. So that is the story with that one. Let's continue on with the dusk phase. Okay, playbook moves. Royal Explorers Club is available. Lady Florence, Rear Admiral Alfred Bingley Green specifically can be used. I don't remember what he does, but if you want to use that, you can. What does he do? Let's look.
Oh wait, this is okay. Let me see. I think I didn't get that desk. Yeah.
Oh, this is the one that gives you weapons. I don't think you need it.
Yeah. Okay. It's just an offer in a sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let's talk about Hargrave House. Let's do the dining room. The hunters of Hargrave House don't typically take dinner together, but you all are. Maybe start a new tradition where you regularly eat dinner together. We'll see how long it lasts. What has Green prepared on the menu for tonight? Everyone gets to say one item.
How about some like somehow exquisitely made potato, like mashed potato or baked potato, something like that with gravy?
I think those delicious potatoes accompany some pheasant today. Tonight is a expensive night.
I think French onion soup.
I'm just getting hungry, so.
I think that dessert is a selection of small bites of like little things, and each one was the favorite of Mr. Nelson, Mr. Taliford, and Mr. Quinn.
Fabulous. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Poor Green, our ghost of Hargrave House, our not literal ghost, but a ghost. The memories of Hargrave House. Let's talk about what we're doing for the night phase. So, Ambrose, you've already said you're going to go visit Mrs. Farrow, correct? That sounds great. Lady Florence, what are you doing tonight?
I think continuing on this point of trying to get things resolved, because the Hargrave House really has to focus on something else, in her opinion. She will pester Green and the Lurker to find things out about Theodora.
Oh, intriguing. Very interesting. Very interesting. Dr. Safby, what are you doing tonight?
I think that he would probably see if there's if Scotland Yard needs any help, or if there's some kind of basically some kind of a body he could get a hold of to examine or do what he could with.
Very good. So you want to go have a scene doing your night work with Scotland Yard. Sounds
yeah,
good.
exactly.
Fabulous. And Ms. Burov?
I think I have something new to hunt. It paid me a visit, and I would like to track it down.
Very good. Where to, do you think?
I don't know. Let's see where. I think I'm more on a fact-finding mission at this point in time, not a confrontation. So trying to figure out where this creepy man has gone to. I want to track it through the city, I guess.
Sounds good. Okay, if there are no adjustments, then we shall continue on. And
just one more mechanical question. So do I understand this correctly, that basically normally at least the Royal Explorers Club, I should use it basically in the dusk phase. So say this is the one I want to use basically for this night phase, or can I just use it whenever? Or
I think it depends on the individual member of the club. That particular one.
Because I saw some of them. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, I see. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's on the dusk phase tracker. It says which one is available to use. I think it's on the tracker. It always says. So, very good. Okay, that's a nice thing about this sheet. Do we have any unresolved Janus Mask prompts? I think we do, don't we?
I have one. Yeah.
You can do it now or wait till dawn.
I will wait till dawn because I don't have anything yet.
Okay, very good. And the unseen. Tonight's unseen is going to be the prison hulk at Woolich. This is on the second row, all the way over to the right. Moored near the industrial town of Woolich are a number of hollowed out old warships that serve as temporary prisons for convicts set to be transferred to Australia and other penal colonies. One of these prison hulks is the HMS Bellerophon, now called the HMS Captivity. A too young cook is walking above and below deck, passing out the evening's portion of hard biscuits and pea soup. Everyone does paint the scene. And Billy, you can have prompt 2. Alicia, you can have prompt 3. And David, you have prompt 4. And with all that said, let's take 5 so you can look over the prison hulk at Woolich, and we'll do the night phase. The prison hulk at Woolich. Everyone, how do we know that captivity is a nightmare of filth and desperation?
I think that it's jam-packed. There's way too many people than there should be. And I think that it leads to a lot of fighting and a lot of other stuff. But there's just so many people in like one holding area that it's just disgusting.
I think there are just dead bodies, like prisoners who've died, just left there.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
I think as a consequence of that, the ship in all of its inner holds and a bit even on the outside, there's just flies. There's just flies everywhere.
I think the barges that bring new prisoners there always come back full as well with bodies.
Grim. Mr. Sylvestris, I assume you are manifesting tonight?
Yes.
Ambrose? Yes.
Sorry, I was reading over the description of it again.
Okay.
Yes, Ambrose is manifesting. I've spent the points.
Very
to
good.
do so.
How do you look tonight?
I think, as always, when he first manifests, he's sort of in his traditional, very medieval robes and garb. But I think before making this visit, I think he would go through one of the. I mean, there is a room of a recently departed hunter. I think he'd probably go through Mr. Nelson's belongings. I think they're probably fairly comparable in size, and put on something simple, something black, something to show mourning. Basically, his normal garb is a little bit too like almost rich and ostentatious for the visit he's about to pay, and so he changes clothes before leaving Hargrave House.
I think we're going to start with you at the country house, not finding the remains, and then maybe heading over to Mrs. Sparrow. But we'll come back to that. Ms. Burov, what is London like tonight as you stalk the streets?
Loud and smelly and invasive in a way that I haven't experienced before.
What is your, I mean, I'll give you the basics of what Hargrave House, I'll remind you what Hargrave House knows about the sculptor. We know that Covent Garden, of course, is an area of high activity. And Rabbi Solomon believes that the sculptor actually is in the valley. Like that's like he's there somewhere, right? Like, so, or is connected to it in some really intimate way. We have the dance studio where the young dancers are trained. We have some other places of note here. There's the church, St. Paul's, which is where one of the bodies was found. There's also Rabbi Solomon's synagogue where another body was found. And Yeah, that's pretty well sort of like what we know. And then of course, well, Covent Garden is where the Christmas tree was, where the one was burned alive. But yeah, so what's your approach here? What do you do? Or do you search somewhere else?
No, I think I would want to search the vicinity around the ballet, like around the theater. I assume that like the dancers are also housed nearby if they sort of live in residence, and like I assume it would be kind of a tighter knit community, right? Everything would be close together.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It could be possibly, but that's a good place to start, though, regardless. So, how is your? What do you do? What's your searching like?
I think that it's very wild, very outdoorsy, right? There's a lot of sniffing, there's touching the dirt, there's searching for footprints. It's very grounded, very material in that way. And I tend to prefer to move like through the alleys where it's dark, where it's away from people.
Yeah, I love it. That sounds great. Let's have the information move with. I'll let you actually have it with vitality.
Six.
6. We'll come back to that. Dr. Safby, you are, I think whenever you're getting ready to do this kind of work, you probably meet up at a mortuary, you know, because that's sort of that lately these days in London, that tends to be the meeting, the common meeting place of Scotland Yard and other people who need to be involved in the night work. And a detective inspector who you know reasonably well, Pettigrew, a very fastidious man with a tiny mustache and a tweed suit, and always twirling a pencil in his hand. He's there at the mortuary. So is Peter Jacobson, one of the mortuary workers. And Pettigrew says, Dr. Safby, so good of you to come by and help us out in these dark and troubled times. Oh, Dr. Safby, the city is practically ponderous with darkness. It is pregnant with malignancy. It is about ready to burst because of all the evil filling it like a bladder held open at the mouth of the Thames. But anyway, I don't know where this is going. Things are bad, Dr. Safby, quite bad. What do you make of? He starts going off a few cases, and then he says, I would be very interested to get your medical opinion on this matter with Sir Richard Harlow. I'm sure you heard of it. Poor chap was found hollowed out like a gourd, wrapped in what appeared to be, well, fool police constable Higgins said that it looked like spider webs, but of course that's absurd. There are no spiders that are big enough to make such webs. I'm sure there's something else, though, some detail that will tell us more about what we're up against. Have you had a chance to see the body yet, Dr. Safby?
He doesn't.
It's the details, Dr. Safby. The details are going to tell us exactly what we need to know about this matter. I am very good with the details. It's what makes me good at my job.
I can tell.
Indeed. Dr. Safby, where did you get your medical training again?
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Thank you.
It's neither here nor there.
Can I see the body?
Of Sir Richard, yes, of course. Yes. Peter, please take us to where Sir Richard's body is being stored. Peter says, right away, D.I. Pettigrew. He will lead you in there. And we'll come back to that. Lady Florence, you're going down to the basement, yes?
Yes, and I think I'm bringing someone who is Sir Anthony Rees Wood, expert for occult and paranormal.
Very interesting. You get down. Well, so let's just have a scene with him first. Let me see who this character is so I know how to play him. This is one of the Royal Explorers. Royal Explorers.
Second to last.
Very good, thank you. Sir Anthony Rees Wood, the occult and paranormal, alarmingly pale, eyes as black as night, and he walks with a limp. Sir Anthony is London's foremost scholar on the occult and paranormal, and whenever he advises on such matters, you get 2 clues, which is great. But of course, the Limehouse Lurker situation is sorted. There's nothing to learn there, right? And so I'm curious, what is your goal here, Lady Florence?
So I think for me, it's basically two possible things. On the one hand, so the goal that Lady Florence apparently has is to get rid of this whole Theodora situation as quickly as possible. So either we could interpret this as well that it's something about Theodora as well, or which I also, this is kind of, I think, her thing at the moment is Lady Florence is saying that basically all the active things, everything that's going on at the moment in the city somehow in any way connected to Theodora in any sense. So maybe the lurker might also know something about the Nutcracker or whatever, you know. That's at least the starting thing. Yeah.
So I think you're maybe just like kind of having a drink before you go down with Sir Anthony, and he says, the legendary Hargrave House. Of course, this is not the first time I have been consulted on matters related to the occult and paranormal. He's not looking at you as he talks. He's just taking in Hargrave House, right? And he says, the work that takes place here is dark, very dark work. And I sense something here that is quite heavy. And I'm not talking about the rather oppressive architectural details. There's something else in the air. I'm sure you feel it as well, Lady Florence.
Yes, I do, Sir Anthony. And I think I haven't been here for a while as well, but now I'm back, and I think it's time for Hargrave House to get a bit more active on focusing on the right things. You do also know quite a lot about vampires, do you?
Yes. Of course, there are all sorts of legends associated with vampires, and there are, well, some people believe it's a sort of disease of the blood that we have managed to, atop which we have managed to layer folkloric significance. I, myself, think that it has to do with the devil, obviously.
Well, this is a kind of delicate situation. You see, it's very simple. I think the Queen, if this Miss Breathwaite or this person that has been traveling Hargrave House for the last couple of months, if she is actually a danger to the Queen, then I think we are. It's just necessary to do whatever is in our power to stop this, and then move on to even more important things. But you see, there is a vampire here. He was here when I came, and it's a child. You see, it's so. I wonder if you are able to tell me how to get some useful information out of this child without,
Lady Florence, I, of course, am practically percolating with excitement about the idea of looking at your vampire. But in the circles I run in, those of us who are dedicated to the esoteric, we've sort of moved on from vampires. We're much more interested in the other crowd. Do you know who I speak of?
Enlighten me, Sir Anthony.
Back at the prison hulk at Woolich, Billy, narrate a scene in which we see the convicts at leisure. How do they entertain themselves? How do they maintain their connection to God and society, if at all?
I think that you get this like establishing shot of, just like we were talking about, a lot of people, and then they've kind of pushed bodies over, right, out of the way. But I think that there's some person we see kind of sticking out because he's sitting and he's invested in a book. He's reading an actual book that he got a hold of at some point. And I think that people start to kind of crowd around him, and I think that he almost like he starts reading the book to other people. And so I think that they, I don't know if it's some kind of religious text or anything like that, but I think that we start to see people gather around, like almost like children, like story time kind of thing, all sitting and watching this one man kind of just read for them, because they don't get anything like that. They don't get that kind of connection anymore.
Love it. Thank you. Ambrose, you're at this country house where you believe the bones have been casually ignored by Hargrave House. Let's talk about this house. It is out in the country, a little ways out of the city. On this night, there is a fog. And because it's the winter, the trees have no leaves, and so they're just silhouetted in the moonlight with their branches going out wildly like bony fingers. And there's just this little shack there. It looks as if it's almost waiting on you. What do you do?
I think Ambrose goes to the door. He knocks. Is there a response?
Yes. The door opens. And you recognize the person on the other side of it. In fact, we might see your eyes widen in recognition. Ms. Burov, you got a miss, yes? Good. You are being approached presently and surrounded by a group of people who are all wearing rat masks. And stepping into the circle is a man wearing a rat mask with a gold crown on his head. And he's brandishing what appears to be quite a nasty looking blade. Rusty, but sharp. And he says, "I'm sorry, miss, but you look like you've taken a wrong turn."
I'm going to sigh as if I'm so over this. I do not have time for this shit. And I feel like I carry like a leather bag that has my various tools and stuff. I'm gonna set it on the ground. I'm gonna look at this rat masked person and say, "This is a bad plan."
They go in for the attack. What do you do?
Let me look at my sheet for a second. New character, don't know what I'm doing. I think we get to see the first appearance of my hereditary weapon. I think that I'm going to use Schmerz and try to rapid fire pick them off.
I love it. I mean, I imagine it'll have to be a bit of a combination of shooting and striking because they're moving in pretty quickly.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's if it works, it will be an excellent action sequence.
I think it will be too.
Rolling,
yeah.
dodging,
Yeah.
shooting.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I want. I think that'd be great. Night move, vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I mean, I'm afraid they're going to swarm me, and I'm not going to be able to fight them off.
Indeed, they're going to kill you and deliver your body to the sculptor. So let's have a vitality roll.
Oh, that's not so bad. 8.
Okay, we'll come back to that. And Dr. Safby, you are looking at the body. It looks like, it does indeed look like spider webs that have been like kind of like wrapped around a person, but it's split open. And you see poor Sir Richard's face is yellow. A common thing that happens when people are poisoned. The eyes are black. It's like when Frodo was captured by Shelob, right? But the guts, the innards, the rib cage is all split open and hollowed out. D.I. Pettigrew says, "So, Dr. Safby, in your medical opinion, what do you think happened here?"
Yeah.
I mean, it is truly horrible, Dr. Safby. Can you even imagine someone who could do something like this? I mean, my goodness, in my day, the people who committed murders and such things, they were very straightforward about it. They were men, almost always men, of efficiency. There was a certain dignity in the way they killed. Clubbings, stabbings, pushed into the river. What is this business? Wrapped in this strange substance, hollowed out like a cornucopia, ready to be stuffed with gourds and fruit. Oh, we live in dark times, Dr. Safby, dark, dark times.
Yeah, he's totally ignoring him, and he's like super into the body now. He likes listening. It's like having a TV show on the background, right?
Indeed, indeed. I assume you're going to use Beneath the Skin.
That is exactly what I'm going to do.
Very good.
I would like to know how this person died. Were they poisoned?
Very good. I have to answer with, I mean, I'll give you your answer, but I'll also give you a clue as well. The clue is, the basic answer is yes. It almost looks like some sort of very powerful venom would have paralyzed Sir Richard so that the rest of the work could be done. But while you are fiddling with the body, perhaps putting your hands inside the crevasse or the open ribs, you can feel just underneath the sternum. Is that what this is? Just underneath the sternum, you can feel what you expect there to be, some sort of like a slickness or perhaps a hardness of desiccated, or not desiccated, like, or desiccated organs, or like, you know, dried up tacky blood or something like that. But instead, you pull out a bundle wrapped in silk. And as you pull it out, it opens up, and white rose petals fall all over the body, down on the floor. D.I. Pettigrew just says, oh, rolls his eyes. And, but that's a clue that you get. You felt something that felt unusual, and that's what it was. So, yeah.
Okay.
What's your other question?
Can I take a body part for the child without D.I. Pettigrew knowing or noticing?
No, but you can still attempt it if you're willing to risk it.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds
Alright.
fun.
We'll come back to that. Lady Florence, and let's note that clue before we forget. The clue is quite simply just a cascade of white roses. In Sir Richard's body. Sir Anthony says, well, I knew we were meeting tonight, of course. I knew I was going to be at Hargrave House, and of course I well understand the work that you get up to here, and I thought you might find this rather interesting. I went to that shop, Hazel Beaumont's shop. You, of course, know Hazel Beaumont as the paramour of our deceased friend, Sir Richard. And I found a couple of rather strange things, and I managed to nick them before anyone could see. He says, what do you think of this? And he pulls out a sealed jar containing spider husks, bundled herbs, and some strange matter that Sir Anthony believes is probably patches of human skin. This is a clue. I assume you're spending this part of the REC to get these clues, correct? Yeah. So you get this clue. And he says, and this is the most unusual thing of all. I thought it was more humorous than anything. He sets down a book of fairy tales, from probably German fairy tales. But the fairy tales all have corrections in the margins. Someone has annotated it, fixing the things that are wrong with the stories. He says, I think this is supremely more interesting than vampires, but nevertheless, there is still good cheer to be had when someone brings a vampire story back to our club. So what say you?
This is all extremely interesting. And yes, this is another thing. The death of our poor acquaintance Richard is something that really I'm also quite interested in. Thank you very much for bringing these. And yes, if we were only able to go down and talk to this vampire boy for a moment, maybe you have some insight. And like I said, it's a child. We shouldn't hurt it, at least not more than just necessary to protect the queen, right? Should we go down?
Yes, I can't wait. I have to say, though, do you have any experience, Lady Florence, with dealing with creatures like this?
No, this is why you are here. And I think well, we have Green working in the house here, you know, our servant, and they are actually quite, somehow, they take care of this vampire boy. They have had quite some experience. I think they will be able to tell you everything. I think they are reading to it at the moment. I don't know where they picked up this practice, reading to children. They in any case.
Most mortals, Lady Florence, are incapable of seeing past their natural urges and biases. What is, in fact, a creature of the devil, a horrible, foul monstrosity, born up from the lowest depths of hell, in the guise of a child, will pull upon the heartstrings like a child might do. This is an understandable reaction. I myself was lured in by a vampire once. Very, very attractive fellow. We had quite an interesting and torrid affair. Research purposes, of course, on my end. I don't know what happened to him, though. He disappeared. Perhaps someone finally put a stake through his heart.
Well, let's hope this is not what we'll have to do with this child today. Thank you for helping me.
Very good. Back to the prison hulk at Woolich. Alicia, please narrate a scene in which we see a convict being punished by a ship's officer. What did the convict do? How is the punishment being carried out?
So we're in a kind of small room with the prison guards, one of whom appears to maybe have more power than the other, sort of head prison guard. And the prisoner is there. And it's all very official, you know. Oh, you've been charged with sneaking letters out of the prison. And the punishment for this is execution. And with fairly immediacy, someone just shoots this poor prisoner in the back of the head.
Grim, indeed. Let's all hope we never end up on the prison hulk at Woolich. Mr. Sylvestris, you are staring at Roger the Reaver. He says, "You can see me."
No, I can't. I don't see anyone here. What a delightful home.
Don't be ridiculous. You can see me. And furthermore, you're from Hargrave House.
Ambrose is going to try to just walk through him.
You do?
And he's gonna go look for the bones, and he's just gonna try to ignore him for now. And
why are you here? What are you doing?
And he just starts. He's like rifling through shelves, opening up trunks and various boxes.
How come when I pass my hand through your body, you do not clutch at your heart and die?
I think after he's like gone through a few rooms like this, he just let's entertain for a moment that I do see you and that I am aware of your presence, which I'm not. There may be certain extenuating circumstances that have brought me here today. I'm looking for a very particular set of bones. You wouldn't happen to be familiar with bodies, would you?
He smiles. As a paint the scene, everyone, Roger the Reaver was able to do the work he does because he looks perfectly unassuming and ordinary. How does this ghost of Roger the Reaver emphasize his complete ordinariness?
I think even in his ghostly form, he's wearing some kind of like little bowler hat. Just like, you know, normal nightly wear, or maybe even the whole outfit, you know, just something unassuming, really.
I think that, Christoph, I think that every person who looks at him is certain that they recognize him, even in his ghost form. You're like, but like, it's because he looks kind of like nothing, right? So he looks like everyone. So you're certain that you've seen this person before.
I think that he's like a little bit shorter than whatever the average height was at the time. So like easy to look over, pass over, and move on to the next.
Adrian, any thoughts on on Roger the Reaver's ordinariness?
No, I think I can at the moment.
Roger the Reaver says, well, you've arrived on a very, very fortuitous night. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't suspect you're going to find it. But I have, for the last number of months, been subtly suggesting to a particular young man who likes to squat in this house that it would be in his interest to burn it down, thereby freeing me from its yoke. And here, Ambrose, you're smelling that smell again that you smelled with the dancer. Kerosene, whale oil perhaps, getting ready to be lit. You smell it all over. They're getting ready to burn this house down. And you hear crunching of footsteps outside the house. Presumably this young man that Roger the Reaver's been working on, getting ready to do the deed. What do you do? You're muted.
Yep. I think Ambrose knows that he can't get outside in time to stop whoever's there from lighting it. And he can, now that he's paying attention to that sense, he can smell the kerosene in the air. He can smell the oil ready to burn. And I think he knows that, like, once again, he's just been left inept, unable to do anything, even so much as finding a body that's probably still here somewhere. I think he's just gonna, like, clench his fist and he's just gonna punch Roger the Reaver right in the face.
Very good, very good.
Ghost to ghost.
Ghost to ghost. Very good. You can do that. There's no response from Roger the Reaver, but I mean, he'll sort of be shocked, I suppose, but you will start to see the flames rising up around the house. This house is getting ready to be is burning down.
I do not want to let him be free of this place and move on. I know, so we have our friend the rabbi who has a ring that's specifically useful for sealing and storing ghosts. I'm gonna try to basically, like, pull him into my body and take him to the rabbi.
This sounds very dangerous. Night
Yes.
move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid he's gonna just steal the body that I have.
Very, very interesting. For you, this is vitality roll. I have to say how it's worse. He will steal the body you have, and yeah, I think he will. Basically, you'll be playing a Roger the Reaver version of the Unquiet from here on out.
That's 2 5s. That is a 10.
Very nice. We'll come back to that. Ms. Burov, please give us. You're going to get injured in the middle of it. That's your 7 to 9. But you otherwise dispatch this group of people. What does it look like?
I think. Sorry, my cat is driving me crazy. I think that. So the last thing I said was this is a bad idea, and I'm going to. It is very epic, dodging, shooting, some occasional punching. And while that's going, I feel like I'm just explaining, I've been doing this since I was a child, when I've killed frogs more dangerous than you, and I'm just destroying them. You're no match for me. And then I feel like at the end, I just kind of brush myself off and pick up my bag and just continue on my plan and just leave them all there.
I love it. And during that, I think you probably managed to pull a muscle in your leg, but otherwise you look pretty well cool as a cucumber out there.
Do you want me to mark pulled muscle as a condition?
I do, yeah. Dr. Safby, night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail to surreptitiously grab a body part?
That he probably won't want me around these investigations in any capacity.
It's worse than that. He'll ensure you're not around by arresting you. So let's have this with composure, I believe, unless there's some other way you're doing it. But it sounds like composure if you're just kind of slyly trying to. What's your actual approach? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was wondering if he would just like, because he hasn't really got a word in, and he's been ignoring the detective inspector the whole time, and I just want him to like turn and just completely deadpan. He's gonna say, "I need this man's hands. Like, I need them off of his body."
Very intriguing. Okay, this is an
Yeah.
interesting approach. I think it's probably I think it's presence, actually. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Roll 2d6 plus
0.
Yeah, I'm putting you at disadvantage though because of angry. I think angry will probably make you not.
That's, I was trying to kind of play into that.
Yeah.
How about 3? How does 3 sound?
He says, "My God, I've figured it out. It's the details. It's always the details. They eventually serve you well. I had heard rumors, of course, that you had taken up residence in that horrible place, in Hargrave House. I have memories of it, only some of them pleasant. And of course, I wondered who could be doing this dark work all across the city. It makes sense now that someone who's accustomed to working with bodies might be able to do the work of the sculptor. Perhaps a doctor, a surgeon. Yes. Perhaps a doctor or a surgeon who is so intimately connected to a little club of night crawlers and devils on Belgrave Square. And you just want the hands." And he says, "Dr. Sathby, I'm afraid the details have betrayed you. And I am going to have to take you down to Whitehall now." And he just goes to arrest you. Do you resist? Or you can mark the Janus mask and avoid this entirely.
I think, although I really liked hearing you do that, that's what I'm going to do.
Very good. We'll come back to that. Lady Florence, you step down into the basement and you hear the cocking of a gun. A man, stout, mean-looking, is holding a pistol up to Sir Antony's temple. And he has the lurker tied up and thrown over his shoulder. There's no sign of green. What do you do?
I think in a quick movement, grab the gun.
Night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I got shot in the head.
Yeah. And the lurker is brought back to Theodora. So let's go ahead and have vitality. Yeah, roll with vitality if you're okay with that.
Sure, and I have no conditions, so see. That's an 11 on the die plus 2. That's 13. So there's a good introduction for Lady Florence today.
Indeed, lots of action today. It's very good. We'll come back to that. David, our last stop at the prison hulk, narrate a scene in which we see a convict finding comfort and companionship within the bulkheads of the captivity.
I think in the corner of one of the bulk containers that is containing many of these prisoners, there is near one of the portholes there in the corner, soaked with piss and grime. There's an older man laying on the ground, sort of his face is covered. He has a sheet over, or what constitutes a sheet here, over much of his body, and he's sort of like tossing and turning, and then like as if not so much possessed so much as dealing with some sort of mental don't want to say like he's like struggling from terrors or something. He's like clawing at the air, and seated next to him is another younger man who's like holding his shoulders and like waiting for the fit to pass, and then like helps him like lay back down, relax. He has like a rag that has been sitting in the window in the porthole that's been cooled by the sea breeze, that he takes down and like lays on his forehead as he lays him back to sleep there in the corner.
Thank you. Ms. Burov, your investigation this evening was cut short, but I would like to just see a last little bit of your night phase here as you sort of go back to Hargrave House. What does it look like?
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with how this whole evening has gone, and I'm stomping, really, just like angrily stomping back to Hargrave House, muttering to myself about how much I hate my family and why they sent me here and everything is terrible. And I just wish I wasn't a Burov, damn it.
Very good. Ambrose. What did you get on your dice?
I got a 10.
Ah,
I'm almost a
very
little
good.
disappointed in that.
Little
Actually,
bit. A little bit.
because I kind of wanted I really want to spend some crowns. I got to get into some backstory stuff, but
It's okay.
or spend some masks rather.
Yeah. I mean, you can bump it up to a 12 plus and get a bonus. So
I'll do that. Just
Yeah.
as an excuse.
yeah, why not? But go ahead and describe how you sort of wrestle the spirit. I'll tell you what your bonus is.
Yeah.
You get to add the spirit of Roger the Reaver to your personal quarters. Describe
Yeah.
it.
So he punches him in the face, and I imagine Roger the Reaver like stumbles backwards, honestly shocked that he was touched at all, especially as I'd walked through him earlier. And Ambrose, who's been quiet, almost doddering for most of his time in the game so far, he like his eyes are narrowed and his fists are clenched, and as like the building starts to, you can see the flicker of flames on the outside as it's been lit and starting to burn. He just says to Roger, "You are going nowhere. You will spend eternity never free from what you've done." And he steps forward and like just throws his arms around him, and it's like a struggle as he like pulls him, clutching, grabbing into his body, and like just like presses his hands against his chest to hold him there. And the building is like on fire now, and the inner rooms are starting to catch as well. So I think he just runs over to one of the windows and just kind of dives out of it, the glass breaking, him rolling across on the ground outside, and begins the long walk. I don't really know how he arrived at the country house, probably via a carriage of some kind. So he runs back to the carriage and tells them to make haste for where the rabbi is.
Love it. And we'll deal with Mrs. Darrow or Mrs. Farrow and possibly Rabbi Solomon in the day phase, but that's good for now. Dr. Safby, you're going to be able to get the hands. I think that the complication or the problem I'm going to give you because of the 7 to 9 is that you have to do this really quickly and you don't have time to pick up all your tools, and you're going to leave your bone saw with the pearl handle is going to be
Perfect.
removed from your PQ. But otherwise, you get your body parts. Do you want to just give us the scene a little bit?
Yeah, I think that he does that, and like I was saying, he hasn't got to say anything, which he kind of has appreciated, but I think it made that moment kind of sink in. I think as a break out of out of the rest of the feeling of the episode, it's like
Actually, oh, sorry, I'm going to back up because you
Okay.
actually like were just like, I need his hands, and
Yeah,
you weren't
no,
doing this. You weren't doing this on incognito,
yeah,
and so I think you'll still leave your bone saw just out of
that's fine.
carelessness. But
Well, I think that he was in a hurry because he's trying to keep up the facade, the commanding persona that he doesn't have. So yeah, he like kind of does it, but it's like he kind of spins around and says that, and it's almost like a crash zoom on him, like a spaghetti western, you know what I mean? And I think that the DI is taken aback quite a bit, and I don't think he waits for a response. He just says it and then he starts doing it. Like it's almost an act of like it's the anger, I think, a little bit. And so yeah, he does that, and then he nearly leaves his entire bag of stuff, save like he just has the hands, and then almost walks out just holding those, and then he remembers his bag but leaves his bone saw.
I love it. Good. Lady Florence, you can just narrate how you dispatch this. This is Theodora's henchman.
I think, and I'm sure Lady Florence at one point will regret this, but I think at the moment she grabs the gun and kind of takes the arm of that man and just flaps him on the ground on his back. And then while talking to Sir Anthony, she says, like, I think this Theodora woman does not really have any idea yet who she is dealing with now. This is not the same Hargrave House that she has been dealing with in the last couple of months. I think we have Yulia Burov now, and me and some others, and we will show her. And then I think she just carries, like, while talking, you deal with the vampire, and then she leaves the certain, and then she carries this person out and just drops him in front of Hargrave House on the street, and they kind of closes the door with a big bang.
Fantastic. That concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. No reward was, or no threat was resolved, so there's no rewards. Let's go to dawn questions. We also are not getting the first two dawn questions. However, Lady Florence, did you experience an echo in the night?
Yes, green reading to the vampire.
Oh, yes, very good. Did you use your loyalty to Her Majesty to justify your brutal actions?
I think so, in regard to dealing with the child vampire in a brutal way, possibly. It's necessary if it serves protecting the queen.
Oh, right, yeah. Did you deliver a chilling, dead-eyed monologue about the horrors of the world?
In the beginning, yes.
Yeah, you were definitely, I could tell you were pushing for that one for sure. I think there's probably a more drawn out dramatic version of it waiting inside you somewhere, but yeah. Very good. Let's go to Dr. Safby. Did you experience an echo in the night?
I don't think so, unless it was really subtle.
Did you put your hands in a pile of guts and love every moment of it? I think you probably did.
Yeah, reaching inside, literally inside a person, probably.
And did you dismiss the possibility? Yes, you did, with the mirrors and Mr. Sylvester.
Oh, yeah.
Got those two.
That guy.
Let's go to Ambrose. Did you get an echo in the night?
Yes, with like the grasping hands and the
very good. Did you luxuriate in the tactile?
always. I remarked on the leather-bound book and
That's
the
right,
smell
yeah.
and the textures.
Did you utilize the past to solve a problem in the present?
I think a little bit less on this one because instead of solving problems, we just made more of them.
Yeah, you kind of did. Yeah, that's fair. Yulia, did you experience an echo in the night?
I maybe with the sort of like cold murder of the prisoner and then me just like straight up murdering all of those.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I'm
Also,
into
the
it.
children. Can we talk about the fact that the rats in the Nutcracker are normally played by children? So I might have just killed a bunch of kids.
Possibly. Did you, you could take that one. Did you loudly curse your family's name? Yes, you did. Did you tell someone why their plans were poorly made?
Yes, as I was again dispatching all of those possible
That's right.
children.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. Good. You got all three of those. Congratulations. And let's keep going. You can mark New Dawn questions if you wish. And taking a look at.
So we did not resolve a thread, right? Because the roll was a miss. Is that correct?
You did not. You neither answer the question nor resolve the threat. Yeah. So.
Okay, and I answer the question also. It only works if we answer it kind of. I get it right. Okay.
Correctly.
Right.
Yeah. So. Playbook moves. On the Unquiet, we have the Phantom. If the Unquiet manage to leave Hargrave House, they are returned involuntarily. Okay, very good. Made Flesh, your physical manifestation ends, and the Open Door. Okay, we didn't do that, so that's okay. And finally, let's talk about Janus Mask and the Child. And is there anything else? That might be it. Who wants to start?
I can go with my Janus Mask. Narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows the first hunt you went on and what about it disturbed you. So it's like cold and wintry, very like northern Russia sort of setting in the dead of winter. And I think that I'm maybe 6 or 7 years old, very, very young, tasked with carrying equipment, so on the hunt but not necessarily doing the hunt adjacent. My first time out, and they get the other members of my family get ahead of me and I have to hurry to catch up with them. And when I get there, the closer I get, the sort of drops of blood are kind of coming, and they're, you know, the blood gets more and more, and I approach and I can see this obviously dead creature. It's covered in like, you know, weird monstery creature things, claws and spines and all that, and it's obviously dead, but my family members are continuing to enact violence on it, just like beating the shit out of it, like in a frenzy basically. And it's horrifying to witness to my tiny child eyes.
Thank you. Any other Janus Mask?
I have a Mask of the Past from doing that a little bit ago. And it says, you lost someone very important to you. Who were they? Name them. So I think that their name is Theodore Perry, and they were I'm sorry for the squeak, the dog. They were a teacher at medical school, I think, almost. But I knew them before I went to medical school. It was like a surrogacy thing almost. But yeah, that's who that person is.
Very good. Thank you. Any other? Do you want to do the hands as well? Because you have to talk about how the hands trigger a pleasant memory.
Sure. I think that it's like once again at medical school, but it's being hands-on with my teacher, probably like with a cadaver, practicing, being taught. And so that it's kind of like that's the symbolism is the two pairs of hands, one on each side of the body, teaching. It's a teaching moment during that.
Yes.
I also have a Mask of the Past marked. Narrate a flashback to when you were alive that shows you having an intimate moment with the hunter who would eventually betray you. Name them.
Also here, I'll remind everyone that there's a chance of a personal quarters item from this scene, right? It says specifically on the Mask of the Past for the Unquiet, yes. Ask another hunter to define an object from the scene and add it to their personal quarters. So be paying attention in case you get called on, I guess.
Yes. So the scene in question, Ambrose and a woman are together in a library. It is far more extravagant than the one at Hargrave House, but also like more dated. The books are all old scrolls or leather bound or vellum bound tomes, and the bookcases themselves are like big, thick, heavy wood, clearly well wrought with love, but still like much rougher than sort of the more modern look, I'm sure, of those in Hargrave House today. And he and this woman, she's dressed fairly comparably to him. Like he's in his, much more ornate robes, but she is like in robes that are just as significant, just as marked. I think to extend the connection to Theodora, I think that they are of that brilliant blue color. And she has around her neck the same gemstone on a necklace. And the two of them are, standing there. They have like a huge book splayed open before them, and they seem to be almost like debating or arguing over something that's written in this book and how it might apply to some situation that they're dealing with. And as they're going through this, and there's like a bit where they're both sort of frustrated with the other one, and they like sort of turn away from them and just take a big deep breath, and then they turn back to look at each other, and their eyes meet, and they're both like just scowling a little bit, but like as each one of them is scowling, the next one tries to like out scowl them and scowl just a little bit harder, and finally just gets so absurd that they both just start laughing, and like share a meaningful glance on the way out. And as they leave the library, I think Ambrose is carrying the large book in his arms. He like throws his arm over her shoulders as they walk across the threshold, and he says, "Oh, Morgan, there's never a dull day with you since you came." And they leave together, heading out somewhere with this book.
Nice. Who do you want to call on to add to their personal quarters?
I feel like Yulia Burov has a love for old tomes, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there are the obvious choice is the book, but what I actually want is the card catalog cards from some of those books.
Nice. Any other Janus Mask? Okay. In that case, that concludes our session. We're already at time, but if anybody wants to hang around, or if anybody has to go, by all means, but if anybody wants to hang around real quickly for our stars and wishes, you can do that as well. I'll start today and say stars. I thought we did a really good job like onboarding these new characters. I think it worked out really great. We got to see a couple of them interact with each other, but we really just got to see them as individuals doing what they're kind of good at, all of them. And I thought that was really, really great. We really got to see like all these characters being their best selves in terms of what the game wants to do, not necessarily making the right decisions, but that we get to see them have their moments. And so as a wish, I'll be looking forward to kind of bringing it back to vulnerable moves with these characters. I think that'll be fun. So.
Yeah, I think that especially Yulia, her interaction with the doctor was a lot of fun, and I like the camaraderie in disliking humanity.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring that more. And also, likewise, I feel like a fun little thing happening with Ambrose and Yulia as well. I don't know, that feels like a fun little mismatched relationship that could happen that I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, stars just in general to all the characters. I'm really excited to see what more transpires with them. I think they're really interesting additions to Hargrave House, and it's so weird to be like sort of this late in the story with Theodora and to be mixing up the house this much. So definitely a wish to to like for us to pack in just enough time to sort of settle into our new connections right as, you know, shit hits the fan.
Another star for me. I got to play in the same session. I got to play Flag, Pettigrew, and the Sculptor, which are 3 of my favorite NPCs to play. So that was fun.
Yes, I really like the Detective Inspector.
Yeah, special star to Pettigrew and Safby's interaction. They're the worst pairing, and I love it.
Also, star for Adrian specifically, continuing to be the character who's like, okay, can we actually get shit done? Which I just really liked. I mean, obviously so different from Green, but that just like little connection, I just really enjoyed that.
I enjoyed seeing the sort of like built-in power of the Explorer playbook. Like just boom, here's a new clue. Or to add to the mix, or boom, here's two clues that I didn't have to roll any dice to get. They're just here, you know, like that's fun. Enjoy that.
Yeah, also I think stars to everyone and to Hargrave House in a sense to really continue this with this completely new cast in a way, but also somehow continuing the story or kind of going back to what we have done before. I think, it's interesting now to have basically through the Explorer playbook now 2 masterminds in a certain sense already. So the new mastermind has kind of moved in next door. So we'll see what happens with this. And it's I think that this dynamic and also kind of Theodora, of course, still as a really dangerous person. I think that's what I'm looking forward to exploring.
Yeah, my hope is that as a wish, I hope that you all take the opportunity next time to bump up your information moves to really to essentially push Theodora to 15 mastermind clues. You're really close. You need 2 more, because that starts the end game where no more new threats get introduced. You just work on the ones you've got, and then you go to Theodora. So another star, I really enjoyed the way I love the interaction between Safby and DI Pettigrew, and I like how Billy like sort of like almost inverted the moment and said, you know, like, this is how I'm taking control of the situation, you know, like I thought that was really fun. So.
And it wasn't an echo in the night, but I like the mirroring of Safby just ignoring DI Pettigrew and Sylvestris just absolutely ignoring at first Roger the Reaver. It's
Oh, that was
like
pretty
that a
good.
lot.
Yeah. Any other stars or wishes? Okay, well, we are a little past time, so let's go ahead and stop the recording.